After the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Communists chose new leadership in the USSR. Leonid Brezhnev became General Secretary of the Communist Party. Brezhnev remained in control of the Soviet Union until his death in 1982. As a leader, Brezhnev was cautious and traditional. He kept intellectuals and dissidents, people who criticized the party or his regime, under close watch of the government. Brezhnev's military and economic policies were similar to Khrushchev's before him. He was concerned about the difference in ICBMs between the US and the USSR, so as this chart shows, he greatly increased the Soviet nuclear weapon supply, as well as non-nuclear weapons. He felt military power gave the Soviet Union a stronger position in world diplomacy. Besides the nuclear arms race, the US and the USSR found new ways to compete and prove their superiority through the space race. Since 1957, the Americans and the Russians have sent hundreds of satellites and human-operated spacecrafts into space. The first satellite to be launched into orbit around the Earth was a Soviet satellite named Sputnik. Sputnik was actually no larger than a beach ball, and it sent meaningless signals back to Earth. But it had a profound effect on the thinking of citizens and governments around the globe, mostly because at the time, people didn't know that it was sending only meaningless signals back to Earth. It was a shiny steel sphere, about 23 inches across, and polished so it would reflect light that could be seen on Earth from 175 miles up in the sky. Russian engineers wanted to make sure that people around the globe could both see and hear it, and it broadcast a beep-beep pattern of signals that could be picked up by amateur radio operators around the world. You can hear the Sputnik signal here. The reaction in the US and around the world to Sputnik was astonishment and some measure of fear. All of a sudden there was an enemy satellite streaking across the sky over the US. At the time, no one knew what it was capable of doing. What US political leaders did know was that if the Soviet Union had rockets powerful enough to launch a successful satellite, then they had rockets powerful enough to launch atomic bombs at the United States. As this headline reads, the space race between the Soviet Union and the United States was on. But America's first attempt at catching up, as you can see in the right-hand column, America wanted to jump-start its satellite program in response to Sputnik. But America's first attempts at catching up to the Soviets resulted in spectacular explosions and complete failures. NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, was created in 1958 to bring competing military space programs into one effort. Soon, NASA was developing rockets for the U.S. government, building space capsules and satellites for the U.S. government, and hiring and training astronauts who would work for the United States government to compete against the Soviets in the space race. Sputnik caused many effects in the United States. Besides jump-starting our own space program, the long-term effects of the space race changed the educational system and the imaginations of our people. Lawmakers and the public began calling for a greater emphasis on math and science in the nation's schools. Governments put more money into developing math and science education, and the school systems responded. Students began to take more math and science courses as a result of the space race. In addition, we began to realize that there was a new frontier to be explored. Putting a man on the moon became an official governmental priority. On July 20th, 1969, astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were the first humans to walk on another planetary body, the moon. Later in the 1980s, American scientists developed the Space Shuttle, a reusable spacecraft that takes off like a rocket and lands like an airplane.
I guess you're about the only person around that doesn't have TV coverage of the scene.
That's all right, I don't mind a bit.
They've got the flag up now, and you can see the stars and stripes on the lunar.
Are you getting a TV picture now, Justin?
Neil, yes, we are getting a TV picture. You're in our field of view now.
I'd like to evaluate the various paces that a person can traveling on the lunar surface. You do have to be. You do have to be rather careful to keep track of where your center of mass is. Sometimes it takes about 2 or 3 cases to make sure that
Space exploration has continued even after the end of the Cold War. Throughout the 1990s, American space shuttles docked at the Russian space station Mir, symbolizing a new era of space cooperation. This linkage raised hopes for the building of an internationally operated space station.